There is a type of person who walks into a room and reads it before they've taken their coat off, not because they are paranoid, not because something is obviously wrong, because their brain does it automatically, the way lungs breathe, without being asked, without being able to stop. Billy read the Slack message at 4:07 p.m. on a Thursday. 4 words. He has been sitting with those 4 words for 11 minutes now. In that time, he has scanned the last 3 weeks of conversations with his manager for any signal he might have missed. He has considered the wording. Later, not when you have a minute, which feels deliberate. He has checked whether anyone else was in the office to receive a similar message. They were not. He has constructed 2 likely outcomes, 7 possible contributing factors, and 1 scenario he keeps dismissing because it sounds too paranoid, and then returning to because it doesn't feel paranoid. It feels accurate. His manager wants to ask him to cover a client call on Friday afternoon. He does not know this yet. He won't know it for another 43 minutes. In the meantime, his nervous system is filing everything. This is not anxiety, exactly. It is something quieter and older and much harder to explain. The problem is not that he noticed the message. The problem is that he cannot stop noticing. Every conversation has a second conversation running underneath it. Every expression has a subtext he reads automatically. The 3-second pause before someone compliments his work. The breath that changes slightly when someone says fine. The sentence that ended half a beat too soon. Most people walk past these things without registering them. He cannot choose to. It is not a skill he has learned. It is the factory setting his nervous system arrived with, or the setting it built for itself somewhere along the way. The result is a kind of hidden marathon. His body has been sitting at this desk for 6 hours. His nervous system has been running for 6 hours. By the time he gets home tonight, he will be exhausted in a way that has no visible cause, and he will sit in his hoodie on the sofa and wonder why he is so tired from a day of apparently doing nothing much at all. The tea will go cold before he finishes it. He will replay The Office twice before he falls asleep. Where does this come from? Psychology identifies 2 distinct origins, and they are not mutually exclusive. The first group, people whose nervous systems were simply built this way. Researchers at a New York university spent decades studying what they called sensory processing sensitivity, a measurable trait present in approximately 1 in 5 people, across species, across cultures. The highly sensitive person's brain does not process sensory input at the same volume everyone else does. The world arrives louder, more textured, more layered. Subtlety that other people's brains filter out as noise registers hear as signal. This is not a disorder. It is a biological variation. The nervous system turned up, by default, past the standard setting. The second group, people who were trained into it. Billy's mother has 2 registers on a phone call. There is the warm one, relaxed, curious, already mid-story before hello has finished. And there is the heavy one, measured, careful, the emotional weather already changed before she has said anything of consequence. He learned the difference so early that he cannot remember learning it. He just knows that by the second syllable of her greeting, he already knows which version of the conversation he is about to have. He has already quietly adjusted. What his child's nervous system was doing, without knowing what it was doing, was building a threat detection system. The amygdala, the brain's alarm center, files the instruction when an environment is emotionally unpredictable. Keep scanning. Not because anything is necessarily dangerous, but because knowing what is coming is safer than being surprised by it. The brain did not make this decision. It did not ask. It simply adapted to what the environment required. The threat went away. The scanning didn't. The child who memorized his mother's register grew into an adult. The child who memorized his mother's register grew into an adult who reads a room in the time it takes to hang up his coat. The nervous system that built him a survival skill has no mechanism to recognize that the survival is no longer in question. It just keeps doing the thing it learned to do in an environment that is mostly ordinary. Here is what living this way actually costs. First, the marathon. His mind never truly rests. During meals, during meetings, during conversations he is enjoying, there is always a part of his brain in the corner of the room, taking notes, not anxiously, just persistently. He cannot turn it off the way most people switch off at the end of a working day. He has to wait for it to run out of material. This rarely happens before midnight. Second, he cannot experience emotions cleanly. Joy arrives at a dinner with friends on Saturday, and 2 seconds later, before the joy has finished, part of him is already on the ceiling, observing, judging. Did he laugh too loudly? That story he told? Did it land the way he intended? He is dancing while watching himself dance in a mirror to correct his posture. He does not miss a step. He loses the feeling of moving. Third, he is never fully inside the moment he is standing in. He is adjacent to his own life. Half of him participates. The other half stands slightly to the side, filing a report about the participation. He is at every dinner, every conversation, every ordinary Tuesday evening, and he is simultaneously recording all of it, for reasons he cannot entirely explain, for a case file nobody has asked him to keep. The awareness is not making his life richer. It is making his life busier in a way that leaves him with less of the thing the business was supposed to protect. Here is the thing nobody says about people who notice everything. They are usually wrong, not about what they notice, about what it means. The hyper-aware nervous system was built for an environment where missing a real threat had real consequences. In that environment, it was correct to interpret ambiguity as danger, to assume the worst, to run the worst-case scenario first, and update from there. But in a mostly safe world, a world of Slack messages and Thursday afternoons and managers who want to ask about Friday client calls, the same system fires on false positives, constantly, without being aware that it is doing so. The unanswered text that was a dead battery, the colleague who did not look up because they were deep in a spreadsheet, the slight edge in a voice that was just tiredness after a long week. The nervous system does not see these as neutral data. It sees them as fragments from which a story must be assembled immediately, because in the environment that built the system, waiting to have more information was not an option. The story is almost never the right one. The awareness is not a window onto the truth. It is a very detailed picture of the story the nervous system is writing in real time from whatever it can find, which raises the real question. If the conclusions are usually wrong, what is the point of all this noticing? The nervous system that built this is not broken. It did exactly what a nervous system is supposed to do when it finds itself in a particular kind of environment. It adapted. It built the best possible tool for surviving that environment. The problem is not the scan. The problem is the old job description it is still working from. People who learn to live with this without being swallowed by it tend to arrive at 3 things, not through being told, but through experience, not steps, observations. The first, the signal and the story are different things. His nervous system picks up a real signal when his manager's message feels different from usual. That part is often accurate. The 47-minute case file he builds from the signal is a story. The story is almost never accurate. He can take the signal and leave the story on the desk. The second, seeing something clearly is not the same as owning it. He walks into a room and reads the undercurrent between 2 people. He does not have to carry it. He does not have to fix it. He does not have to include it in the case file. Noticing something and being responsible for something are different positions. He can occupy the first without occupying the second. The third, the scan can be redirected. The same nervous system that files threats can file other things. The quality of late afternoon light through an office window, the specific way a coworker's face changes when they say something they actually believe, the texture of a Thursday that, for all its Slack messages, is actually fine. The system will run regardless. What it attends to is, to some small degree, a choice. He still reads every room he walks into. He's just stopped writing a verdict. If any of this feels familiar, the hidden marathon, the exhaustion of a day that looked like stillness, the part of you that is always slightly to the side of the moment you are standing in. Send this to whoever else you know who is still running the scan long after the room has gone quiet. They already know what it costs. They might need someone to name it,